I had a question about that song, Be All You Can Be. What if all I can be is dead on the side of an Iraqi road? I mean, I think it's logical. This is a war. People die all the time. Why not me?
Few experiences expose the raw fragility of human existence like war. In the midst of chaos, where survival is arbitrary and death is often meaningless, soldiers are forced to confront profound existential dilemmas. Stripped of the comforts of everyday life, they must grapple with the fundamental questions of meaning, purpose, and responsibility. War becomes an existential crucible, one that does not offer easy answers, only choices that define those who endure it. These questions lie at the heart of two of the most compelling modern war films, Saving Private Ryan and The Hurt Locker. While drastically different in tone and approach, both films depict war as a setting in which individuals must navigate absurdity and construct meaning in a world that provides none. Drawing from existentialist philosophy, they explore themes of randomness, moral ambiguity, and personal responsibility in ways that resonate deeply with the works of thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. Yet, while both films engage with these ideas, they offer starkly different conclusions about how meaning is forged in war. Saving Private Ryan presents purpose as something that is built through duty and self-sacrifice, suggesting that meaning is found in fighting for others. The Hurt Locker, by contrast, offers a far more unsettling vision, one where war does not reveal meaning, but erodes it, leaving behind an endless cycle of addiction and isolation. Through their opposing perspectives, these films reveal a fundamental truth. Meaning is not merely constructed, but discovered through commitment to something beyond oneself, while the pursuit of self-interest alone leads to detachment, isolation, and ultimately, the erosion of purpose. It is no coincidence that many of the most powerful war films engage with existentialist themes. In the chaos of battle, individuals are forced to confront life, death, choice, and meaning under extreme conditions. Few settings challenge the very foundations of human purpose as intensely as the battlefield, where survival is not guaranteed and morality is often ambiguous. Saving Private Ryan and The Hurt Locker both wrestle with questions of purpose and responsibility, but they arrive at fundamentally different conclusions. Before analyzing these films in depth, however, it is essential to first establish a foundational understanding of existentialism itself, its core principles, historical context, and relevance to the experience of war. Existentialism is a philosophical movement centered on the idea that human beings exist in a universe that does not provide them with inherent meaning or purpose. Unlike previous philosophical traditions that sought to uncover objective truths about the world, existentialism asserts that individuals must create their own meaning through action and choice. At its core, existentialism grapples with certain fundamental questions. What happens if there is no predetermined purpose to life? If meaning is not given to us, how do we construct it? While existentialist thought has roots in the 19th century with philosophers like Søren Kierkegaard and Friedrich Nietzsche, it became most influential in the 20th century, particularly in response to World War II. The devastation and moral ambiguity of the war challenged long-held beliefs in objective morality and divine order. In its aftermath, thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and Simone de Beauvoir argued that humans must confront the reality of an indifferent universe and take full responsibility for shaping their own existence. One of existentialism's most famous concepts, coined by Jean-Paul Sartre, is the idea that existence precedes essence. This means that human beings are not born with a predefined nature or purpose. Instead, they define themselves through their actions. Unlike objects, such as a knife which is designed with a specific function, humans have no predetermined essence. Instead, they must actively construct their identity through the choices they make. This idea leads not only to radical freedom, but also to radical responsibility. Sartre rejects the idea that external forces, such as fate, society, or even war, can fully dictate one's actions, and argues that because there is no higher authority dictating what is right or wrong, individuals are entirely responsible for their own actions. This can be both liberating and overwhelming, as it places the burden of meaning-making entirely on the individual. In his view, humans are condemned to be free, meaning they have no excuse for avoiding responsibility for their decisions. Another core tenet of existentialism is Albert Camus' concept of the absurd, which describes the tension between humanity's desire for meaning and the universe's apparent indifference. According to Camus, people instinctively seek purpose, order, and justice in the world, but the world itself offers none. This conflict creates an existential dilemma. How should one respond to the realization that life has no inherent meaning? While Sartre focused on radical freedom, Camus explored the ways in which individuals respond to the realization that life lacks inherent meaning. In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus uses the Greek figure Sisyphus, who is condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, as a metaphor for the human condition. He argues that rather than despairing over the absurdity of existence, one must embrace it and find meaning through rebellion against meaninglessness. Camus' existential hero is the person who acknowledges life's absurdity, yet continues to act with purpose, despite knowing that ultimate meaning may never be found.
James Francis, Ryan? Yes, sir. How'd you guess that?
Among war films, Saving Private Ryan stands out not only for its visceral depiction of combat, but also for its deep engagement with existentialist themes. The film follows a squad of American soldiers tasked with locating and bringing home Private James Francis Ryan after his 3 brothers are killed in action during World War II. As the soldiers push deeper behind enemy lines, their mission forces them to confront profound existential questions. Is their mission justified? Does saving one man's life hold enough weight to warrant the sacrifices made along the way? If war is an environment of chaos and absurdity, where does meaning come from? From an existentialist perspective, Saving Private Ryan explores these questions by presenting war as an inherently absurd and indifferent force, aligning closely with the philosophy of Camus. The film immediately establishes war's chaotic absurdity with its harrowing D-Day opening sequence. As American soldiers storm Omaha Beach under heavy German machine gun fire, death comes without logic or pattern. Some men are killed instantly, others survive by sheer luck. A soldier reaches for his severed arm as though he could somehow reattach it. There is no inherent justice in who lives and who dies, reinforcing Camus' belief that the universe is indifferent to human existence. This randomness continues throughout the film. Caparzo is shot and killed while trying to save a little girl in a war-torn town. His death is particularly tragic because his intentions are noble, yet his actions lead to his downfall. Likewise, Wade, the squad's medic and a compassionate and intelligent soldier, is mortally wounded in an ambush. His slow, agonizing death is especially painful because he is one of the most selfless members of the squad. There is no reason for why he dies and others live. His death simply happens, further underscoring Camus' view that life does not offer satisfying explanations. These deaths, along with several others, reinforce the existentialist idea that good intentions do not guarantee a meaningful or just outcome. War, like life, operates with brutal indifference. The absurdity of war in Saving Private Ryan sets up a central existential question. If war is a meaningless and chaotic force, how should individuals respond to it? The film suggests that individuals must actively construct their own meaning, a perspective that aligns with Sartre's argument that existence precedes essence. That is, people are not born with predetermined meaning, but must define themselves through their actions and choices. Captain John Miller embodies this existential dilemma. Throughout the film, he is burdened with the arbitrary nature of his mission, knowing that rescuing one soldier may not objectively change the course of the war.
This Ryan better be worth it.
Yet rather than surrender to nihilism, Miller chooses to embrace his duty, thereby constructing meaning in the face of uncertainty. His leadership exemplifies Sartre's concept of radical responsibility, in which individuals must take ownership of their choices, even when meaning is not readily apparent. One of the film's defining existential moments occurs when Miller addresses his squad's growing resentment toward their orders. Some soldiers, particularly Private Reiben, question the logic of risking their lives for one man. In response, Miller asserts,
"We all have orders and we have to follow them. That supersedes everything, including your mothers."
At first glance, this statement may seem like blind obedience to authority. However, in the context of Sartrean existentialism, it reflects a conscious choice to commit to a responsibility rather than succumb to existential despair. Miller understands that war is absurd, yet he deliberately chooses to see meaning in his duty, not because it is objectively justified, but because he wills it to be. Miller's not the only squad member grappling with an existential dilemma. Private Reiben initially resists the mission, seeing it as futile. However, as the film progresses, he makes a personal choice to commit to it, demonstrating existentialist responsibility. Corporal Upham, on the other hand, starts as an idealistic and inexperienced soldier, but is forced to confront the brutal reality of war. His arc illustrates Sartre's idea that individuals are forged by their choices. His eventual execution of a captured German soldier reflects the burden of moral responsibility in war. If duty is a means of constructing meaning, then Saving Private Ryan suggests that sacrifice solidifies that meaning, even in the face of absurdity. This idea aligns with Camus' concept of the absurd hero, particularly as outlined in the myth of Sisyphus. In the film, Captain Miller and his squad ultimately find purpose in their willingness to sacrifice for others, turning their seemingly arbitrary mission into something deeply meaningful. As Miller lies dying, he utters his final words to Private Ryan.
Earn this.
This moment encapsulates Camus' philosophy. Miller acknowledges that his sacrifice has no preordained meaning, yet he challenges Ryan to give it one. Meaning, in this view, is not an inherent quality of sacrifice, but something that must be actively created and sustained by those who remain. Ryan's later existential reflection, asking if he has lived a good life, reinforces this burden.
Tell me I'm a good man.
His survival is meaningless on its own. Its significance depends on the life he leads afterward. This ties directly into Camus' notion that the absurd hero embraces life despite its lack of inherent justification. By the end of the film, it is not only Captain Miller who has died, but several members of his squad have made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that Ryan survives. Despite initial doubts about the mission's purpose, they all seem to have accepted that sacrifice for the good of the mission ultimately gives their lives meaning. Their actions reflect a fundamental existentialist paradox. In choosing to give their lives for another, they create significance in an otherwise indifferent world. In this way, the film suggests that meaning is not just constructed through duty, but fully realized through selfless sacrifice.
Someday we might look back on this and decide that Saving Private Ryan was the one decent thing we were able to pull out of this whole god-awful shitty mess.
Hey, James, you think I got what it takes to put on the suit?
Hell no.
While Saving Private Ryan explores existentialist themes through duty, sacrifice, and the construction of meaning, The Hurt Locker presents a starkly different existential perspective, one that embraces war as an absurd, cyclical, and all-consuming force. The Hurt Locker follows Sergeant William James, a bomb disposal expert in the Iraq War, whose reckless, thrill-seeking nature suggests that war itself has become his purpose. Like Saving Private Ryan, The Hurt Locker portrays war as chaotic, arbitrary, and indifferent to human effort. However, while Saving Private Ryan ultimately argues that meaning can be constructed through selflessness, The Hurt Locker presents a more nihilistic response. Meaning is not just difficult to find, it may not exist at all. The film's opening scene establishes its existentialist tone. James's predecessor, Sergeant Matt Thompson, approaches a routine bomb disposal job with careful precision, following protocol step by step. Yet, despite his skill and experience, he is killed instantly by an unexpected explosion. This moment starkly illustrates Camus' idea of the indifferent universe. No matter how much control one attempts to exert, death can come arbitrarily and without reason. The lesson is clear. War, like life, is not bound by fairness or justice. As James takes over the bomb disposal unit, the structure of the film mirrors the Sisyphean cycle. Each bomb he disarms is followed by another, then another, and another, with no apparent end in sight. There is no overarching mission, no ultimate resolution, only the relentless repetition of survival. Camus describes the absurd hero as someone who continues their task despite knowing it is ultimately futile, and James embodies this concept perfectly. Unlike Saving Private Ryan, where the soldiers have a clear goal that gives their mission purpose, The Hurt Locker denies the existence of any overarching purpose. war is not something to be won or completed. It is simply endured.
What are we shooting at? I don't know!
While Miller and his squad see their actions as leading to a greater good, James operates within an endless loop. His work does not build toward a greater goal. Instead, it is a constant reset, reinforcing the meaningless nature of war itself. Just as Sisyphus is doomed to roll his boulder forever, James is caught in the cycle of defusing one bomb after another, unable or unwilling to break free. Whereas Saving Private Ryan emphasizes the existentialist concept that meaning is constructed through collective sacrifice, The Hurt Locker presents a war experience defined by radical individualism. Throughout the film, James disregards protocol and repeatedly puts his team at risk, prioritizing his personal thrill over the safety of others. Unlike Captain Miller in Saving Private Ryan, who sees responsibility as a burden that must be shared, James operates as a lone wolf. His repeated recklessness suggests that he does not truly see himself as part of a team. Instead, he acts on impulse, choosing risk and adrenaline over camaraderie and duty. James embodies Jean-Paul Sartre's philosophy of radical freedom, which argues that individuals are entirely responsible for defining their own existence.
Should I fire?
It's your call, buddy.
However, Sartre also warns that this absolute freedom can lead to alienation, a theme central to James's journey in the film. One of the most harrowing moments in the film occurs when James is confronted with a civilian forced into a suicide vest. Despite his skills, James is powerless to save the man. This moment contrasts sharply with Saving Private Ryan, where sacrifice often has a clear moral weight. In The Hurt Locker, even the best efforts can result in failure. This reinforces Sartre's idea that radical freedom can lead to isolation and despair rather than purpose. By the end of the film, James has fully embraced his individualism, but rather than giving him meaning, it has left him isolated. Unlike Miller, whose death gives Ryan's life a sense of responsibility and purpose, James's survival only reinforces the emptiness of his existence. When James briefly returns home, he is overwhelmed by the mundanity of civilian life. A scene of him standing in a supermarket aisle, staring at countless cereal boxes, captures his disconnection from everyday existence. He has no place outside of war. Peace does not bring him relief, only restlessness. The film's final moments show James willingly redeploying to Iraq, stepping off the helicopter with the same detached expression. His eternal recurrence is so deeply ingrained that he is willing to step away from his home, wife, and child in order to return to combat. This reinforces the idea that for James, war is not merely something he does, it is his only true identity. He does not merely accept war's absurdity, he embraces it, rejecting a life outside of it in favor of perpetual repetition. James does not seek change, he chooses war because, to him, it is the only reality that makes sense. Both Saving Private Ryan and The Hurt Locker grapple with the fundamental existential question of whether meaning can be found in a chaotic and different world, but they offer starkly different conclusions. In Saving Private Ryan, meaning is forged through duty and self-sacrifice, where purpose is found in serving a cause beyond oneself. In contrast, The Hurt Locker depicts purpose as something elusive, where personal gratification becomes a hollow replacement for meaning, leading to a cycle of addiction and isolation. The difference between these films is clear. The more outward-directed and selfless one's purpose is, the more meaningful it becomes. Conversely, when purpose is inward-directed and self-serving, it becomes meaningless and isolating. In Saving Private Ryan, meaning is not personal, but collective. The film suggests that true purpose is found in selfless acts that transcend individual survival. Captain Miller and his squad understand that their mission, though seemingly arbitrary, becomes significant because it is in service of others. As Miller lies dying, he utters his final words to Private Ryan. This simple command carries immense existential weight. Miller recognizes that his sacrifice and the sacrifices of his men have no inherent meaning unless Ryan actively gives it meaning by leading a purposeful life. This contrasts sharply with The Hurt Locker, where war is not a backdrop for meaning-making, but an end in itself, one that offers no deeper significance beyond personal gratification. If Saving Private Ryan presents war as an arena where selflessness creates meaning, The Hurt Locker portrays war as an addiction that consumes those who seek purpose within it. James does not fight for others. He fights because it is the only thing that gives him a sense of control and identity. James's actions align with Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence. He is trapped in an endless cycle, repeating the same behaviors without true progression. Unlike Miller, who dies with a sense of purpose, James survives, but finds himself unable to function outside of war. When James returns home, he is met with a reality that he no longer understands. In war, his choices were life or death. Here, they are meaningless and arbitrary. He is overwhelmed not by the presence of danger, but by its absence. Without war and the adrenaline of defusing bombs, he is unmoored. He has no purpose outside of the chaos.
But you know what, buddy? As you get older, some of the things that you love might not seem so special anymore.
Unable to reconcile with the mundanity of civilian life, James makes the ultimate choice. He returns to Iraq, stepping off the helicopter as if stepping back into his only reality. This decision is the ultimate contrast to Miller's sacrifice. Miller dies for something larger than himself. James lives for nothing but himself. His purpose is not driven by a sense of responsibility or duty, but by personal compulsion. He does not seek meaning. He seeks the thrill, the clarity of war, where purpose is simplified to mere survival. For James, war is not a means to an end, but an end in itself. Unlike Ryan, who carries Miller's legacy forward, James leaves nothing behind. He is not building meaning. He is escaping the absence of it. The contrast between these films reveals not just two different perspectives on war, but two opposing paths for confronting existential uncertainty, one through selfless duty and the other through aimless compulsion. Where Saving Private Ryan finds meaning in sacrifice, duty, and collective responsibility, The Hurt Locker offers a far bleaker vision, a world where purpose is fragile, fleeting, and ultimately consumed by isolation. The difference between these two perspectives is more than thematic. It is fundamentally human. Ironically, the more one's actions serve something greater than oneself, the more meaningful life becomes. Conversely, the more one operates in pursuit of personal gratification alone, the more one risks losing that sense of purpose entirely. Yet these films do not just speak to war, they speak to life itself. Every individual at some point must confront the absurdity of existence and the responsibility of choice. The question is not whether meaning exists, but how we choose to forge it, through commitment to others or through cycles of self-indulgence. War may heighten these stakes, but the dilemma is universal. In the end, it is not merely about survival, it is about what we do with the time we are given.